Johnson, if you've got half a brain in that empty head of yours, you'll call the freeze-dry guy like I did. That food is better for you, it rehydrates faster, and it's good, Johnson. And it keeps for up to 30 years.
Will we be gone that long, sir?
I hope not. Now get your supplies organized and meet me down to the pier at dawn on Sunday. We sail at sunrise.
Yes, sir.
This adventure is brought to you by the Freeze-Dry Guy. Call 866-404-3663 or visit freezedryguy.com.
America, politicians are about to vote on the creation of a police state and permanent state of war everywhere on Earth. The Homeland, Mein Führer. The U.S. Senate will be voting on a bill that will give this president and every future president the power to order the military to pick up and imprison, without charge or trial, civilians anywhere in the world, including America. Illuminati, you never take control. Your new world order, willing to not at all. Over that again because it may seem insane or unhinged at first. The American president wants the power to arrest and detain anyone, anywhere, indefinitely, without charge or trial, forever. Yes, it still sounds insane.
And welcome, everybody, once again. Welcome, welcome. Thank you again for joining us. Ideally, we want to fade that music out, but all right. Good morning, everybody. Excuse me, good afternoon. Again, it's morning in certain parts of the world where I've been chatting it up with some friends of mine. You are listening again to the story behind the story. Today is Wednesday, February 20th, 2013. And I am your guest host, Alex Studer, coming to you from a rusted out ice cream truck in the city of San Francisco, somewhere under a bridge. My faithful sidekick, Kitty Cat, is no longer with me. So I'm doing the show by myself and still kind of struggling after her recent loss. And again, for those who are just joining and unaware of the schedule change, we're now into our sixth week of this new schedule where I have been asked to sit in for True Ott on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. His schedule is getting tighter and tighter for him as his obligations with his family and church become more involved. And out of the blue, he just sort of asked, would I be interested in sitting in 2 days a week? It started out just being 1 day a week. And the idea was to have someone else do the second day. And the second person didn't even respond, apparently. So it just kind of worked out. I haven't really had much going on in my world of work this winter. And it's usually a slow season for me work-wise, so it's worked out so far. I would imagine that as spring comes along, I might find a few conflicts, but we'll, as I like to say, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. For those who, before I get into the show content today, let me just kind of start off with my sort of disclaimers and shameless promotional statements here. Folks, you're listening to the Micro Effect, which is a family-run, independently operated radio network that is run by Joe McNeil and his family, and they depend entirely on listener contributions to fund this radio broadcast and all other broadcasts that are on the Micro Effect. So please, folks, if you are listening to this show and getting anything from it, or any of the other shows, there's an amazing array of talented and informative broadcasters that are part of the crew that make up the Micro Effect. Please donate generously, and at the very least, go and subscribe to the archives. For $20 a month, you are given a username and a password, and then you can access all of the archives for every show. I think within the past year. You can either listen to them live right off the website, or download them in MP3 form for your own use afterwards. So, again, folks, please contribute to the Micro Effect. Once again, this show is the show that was created by Dr. Alma True Ott. Yeah, that's his real name, folks. And he chose to go by True, just coming from a high school thing where, with the name Alma, A-L-M-A. I guess he got teased for, what other kids called his having a girl's name, and so he just kind of went with A. True, which is his, actual middle name. And for those out there who are saying that's not his real name, well, it is. He's got a birth certificate to prove it. I don't know what you folks are thinking or smoking, but must be some good stuff, and I want some, if that's the case. And I'm going to get back to that because there's an interesting little thing that just popped up on my radar today from one of these Edomite Bopsy twin people in Hawaii that I've been speaking of, that I'll save for a little while. Yesterday's show, I concluded on the subject of Morgellons, once again, folks, and that was in response to my having observed and listened to some recent divulgences of one Clifford Carnicom, who's a scientist, a researcher, and a microbiologist who's been looking into this Morgellons thing for the last 12 years. He recently came out with some new scientific statements and hypotheses, and he's in the midst of making a new paper about them. But essentially, in a nutshell, what he came out with suggests that this problem of Morgellons is much more serious than it was ever thought to be in the first place up until this point. And he's targeted 5 or 6 critical areas in which this condition affects people's health and organ function. And this is not a selective group. The assertion here is that every single living, breathing human being, and beyond that, every living, breathing thing, all mammals, all dogs, all pets, everybody who's been breathing this aerosol chemtrail crap, okay, has over time been developing this condition. It's very mysterious. It's very new. It defies all understanding of what we knew of molecular biology and physiology up to this point. And so it's really a brand new field, uncharted territory. From my own research into this subject, folks, I think I spoke quite clearly about it in another program earlier on. But just to revisit that, I've come to conclude that this is a very transhumanistic agenda. Its sources appear to originate from places like DARPA and NASA and Fort Detrick pathology labs, U.S. Armed Forces pathology labs, and on up the food chain, which ultimately leads to where what I've stated quite clearly to believe, what I believe is the very top of the secret society food chain, the B'nai B'rith. And they operate through functionary groups like the Club of Rome and the Vatican and the Queen and the Masons and the Jesuits. But pretty much they're at the top of the food chain, and even they are relaying orders, as it were, from Lucifer's fallen ones. And, you know, this critter Lucifer himself, apparently. I mean, these are things I don't want to know too much about, but the more that it's like being stuck in quicksand, you know. The more you wriggle, the deeper you sink. And it's sort of how, I guess, I heard someone describe it to me. It's like how you feel when you're having a panic attack. And there was a story of this person who, I guess, was having a malfunction in their accelerator pedal on their car, and or their brake pedal, excuse me. And they, you know, the brakes failed, and instead of actually slowing the car down, when they stepped on the brake, the car sped up and went even faster. And calling 911, getting chased down by highway patrol and all this, they just sort of ran the gauntlet. And the cop was advising him, you know, put your foot on the pedal and see what happens. And he'd put the foot on the brake pedal, and the thing would speed up. It would go to 100, and then 120, and then 150 miles an hour. These people are tearing down the freeway with a CH or a highway patrol escort. I'm not sure exactly where this occurred, but ultimately the guy ran out of gas. But that's the analogy that a panic attack occurs, is when, you know, someone suffering that sort of a psychological, you know, psychosomatic or you know, that problem is where the attempt to relax it actually increases it. And so that's been my process of going down the rabbit hole. Is every time I think I'm going to try to dig myself out of it, I end up just falling even deeper. And this Morgellons thing is no exception. You know, I figured, oh, this is all, you know, it's all just malarkey. I'll prove it. I'll show them that people don't have this stuff. And I got my own microscope sitting right here. Easy to do on eBay or Craigslist or any of these sources. People are dumping them used, and pick up a good high-powered microscope pretty cheap these days. And then I decided, well, okay, I'm not going to go get a petri dish like Carnicom is doing, because he's growing cultures from these things that are growing out of people's gums. You know, people rinsing their mouth with red wine, spitting it into a petri dish. No, I'm going to do the thing that was suggested over in Jan Smith's site, MorgellonsExposed.com, and I'm just going to buy a brand new hairbrush, and I'll go wash my hair and make sure it's all clean, and I'll come back with a brand new hairbrush, and I'll do what they call the hairbrush test. And I'll just kind of run it through my hair a couple times, and then I'll pick the little lint stuff from the base of the brush spokes, right? And put it on a slide and look at it, and I'll prove right then and there that I don't have Morgellons. Ha ha ha, I'll show you. Well, aren't I the one that ate crow on that one? And I, you know, once I picked myself up off the floor in complete disbelief at what I was looking at, and just I was upset. I went and grabbed one of my little pocket video recorders. I have a couple of these little things. Kodak no longer makes them, but they were called the Play, tiny little. They're about the size of your cell phone, basically, if you have a stupid phone like I have. They're tiny, and they fit in your pocket, and they record to flash, and they're high definition. They're real high def, 1080p, very high res video cameras. And I was like, I don't know if this will work, but I somehow found a way, and I just put the camera lens right up to the microscope and was able to position it in a way where I actually was able to videotape my own slides as I was looking at them. And these are videos which I posted to YouTube and linked at my blog as I posted it when all this was going on. And I think the most recent of those is maybe November from 12, if I'm not mistaken. It may be even some older than that as the most recent. But again, folks, I'm the author of this crazy down the rabbit hole blog called labvirus.com, and it's a lot to digest, folks, and I understand it makes your brain hurt real fast, because I'm kind of all over the map as far as grabbing little headlines and commenting about different things, and it may seem incoherent at times, but I try to make a post as best I can every day. It's not always every day that I can make a post. But each time I do post, and this is mainly for my own benefit, I'm just sharing it with everybody. It's my own way of databasing the various chronologies, the timelines, the daily headlines in certain areas of things that relate to this multi-faceted, this multi-tentacled octopus, which is this, I guess the easiest way to call it is this New World Order agenda. Because there are so many aspects to it. As my blog implies, one of those aspects is bioweaponry in the form of laboratory-created viruses, which by definition are chimera viruses. A chimera is an intentional splicing of two different species of genetics, which otherwise, outside the pathology lab, God has firewalled against. He's basically built natural defense firewalls so that horses can't get dog diseases and people can't get anything other than people diseases. Okay. Well, they really worked on that hard in pathology labs and figured, well, now, if we can, we're so brilliant, we can do cloning and stuff. Well, let's start splicing things together and see what happens. Maybe we can come up with man, bear, pig. And that's just I'm alluding to a South Park episode involving a satirical characterization of one Al Gore. I won't get into that, but in the pathology lab, yeah, they came up with man, bear, pig virus, basically, and this has been the sole central thesis from which I've operated, which I've branched out on considerably. But I just want to touch on this because, as I've mentioned, I read to you folks the 25 rules of disinformation yesterday, and all of these characteristics which can make up and evidence a disinfo agent. Some of the two primary offenders in this realm of disinformation, who I refer to lovingly as the Edomite Bopsy twins, this guy Len Horowitz and his sidekick there, Sherry Kane. Okay, I'm looking down on my own site, and I have RSS feeds from various other sites and blogs and sources of regular reporting on current issues from various segments of the world issues that I refer to often when I'm composing my daily post. And one of them is this group called aircrap.org. And I had to remove them today. I'm not feeding their RSS to my page anymore after what I just found on their site, which is an article of an interview with this Len Horowitz guy. And y'all can go there, read it for yourself. I'm not going to read it to you. This is the guy that's throwing out all these lies about Dr. Truott by creating a very slanderous site called Truott.com, which is not anything having to do with anything Dr. A. Truott represents. These people have another thing going on, War on the People something rather, I don't know. People keep forwarding me and they're like, hey, we found all this, on the internet where, these guys, Len Horowitz and Sherry Kane, are, accusing you of being COINTELPRO and Satanist and working with Michael Aquino and Rima Leibau and stuff. I'm like, what? Okay, if you've been listening to my broadcasts since the beginning, and hopefully if you haven't, you've subscribed to the archives so that you can get access. I told you my whole life story, and nowhere in there is me working for Satanists or being recruited by the FBI's infiltrating and spy division called COINTELPRO, okay? I'm unemployed, folks. I'm running on fumes, and that's why I'm even able to do these broadcasts. It's because I'm not working, okay? Hey, I know the Micro Effect needs your help. So does, Truott. He would love you all to go to Mother Earth Minerals, meminerals.com, and buy supplements and mineral products and get yourself a water distiller. I could use a little help. I mean, $5. I'm not kidding. Everybody's out there buying silver and doing. I can't. I'm having trouble finding 2 copper pennies to rub together at this point. This is not going to last forever, and I'm looking forward to going back to work very shortly. I have another couple recording sessions coming up, but. Yeah, if anybody feels like it, if there's anything left over after donating to the Micro Effect, supporting Truott through Mother Earth Minerals and so forth, throw me a couple pennies. I would certainly appreciate it. It certainly helps me keep gas in the generator, and I'm no longer feeding my kitty cat, but it helps keeps the lights turned on. That you can, there's a donate button over at labvirus.com, and again, there was one person who sent something last week, and thank you to that person. That was very thoughtful. As I touch on the subject of silver and gold and precious metals, I'm a huge precious metal fanatic, folks. I think that it's way beyond the time for anyone to even be considering getting out of the paper realm. Markets are all up right now. Perfect time to cash in, get out, get into some precious metals. Especially today, they're all down. I have been talking to some of my precious metal people, my homies, my peeps in the precious metal field, and they seem to think that we're going to hit a downward slope for a little while, a trend to where gold could possibly even dip to $1,550. Silver right now is at about 28 and change, which is a considerable drop from the high of 32 just a few days ago. So I think there's still opportunities for people to get back into metals if they've been sitting on the sidelines waiting for things to change. I don't think we're done with the temporary ups and downs. I think a lot of people are playing these markets and influencing them so that they can still profit from them as the prices rise and fall. But I do believe that, at least from the info that I'm gathering, there's still opportunity to get back into metals. Prices could potentially drop a little more than they have already. And if you haven't done it yet, now's the time to do it, and make sure it's physical. Don't do any of this paper certificate nonsense. You won't get delivery. Basically, that is a scam where they're just, Amex and Comex. They're selling more paper certificate contracts for ownership than there's physical inventory to back it up. So who gets their physical and who gets stuck with an IOU? Don't be one of those people. And for people like me, if you're down in poverty land, and you're lucky to have a $5 bill in your pocket, you could still take that to your local coin dealer if you have one, and hopefully be able to buy at least a couple dimes, silver dimes, pre-1965 silver coinage. That has a certain value in its silver content, and it's measured by weight, and it's sold at spot, rarely with a premium, hardly and no tax. So even with small amounts, you can still get in. I would advise doing so. These currency wars and other things looming on the horizon, this austerity business, it's spreading like the plague, and again, we're not being shown on the news the rioting going on in Greece and Spain. It's phenomenal. The travesty that's going on in Athens, Greece right now, the austerity riots. It's signs of the times, signs of things to come, and history is going to repeat itself for those who don't learn from it. And sadly, I think too many of us have avoided learning from history, and hence we are really, really doomed. Many things I've read indicate that we're way beyond the point of no return on this. The hyperinflation to come and the devaluing of currency as markets collapse worldwide it's pretty much a sure thing. It's just a matter of timing at this point. So I can't stress it enough, folks. Shore up your belongings, get your house in order. Protect your assets. Don't leave yourself hanging in the wind by holding on to paper or your Google stock or your Apple stock or whatever stock. It's so tough to convince. I mean, just even to discuss with people. I have friends who are exceedingly wealthy, who are perfectly convinced that this is all just buggity boo, and it will all go away, and they'll be able to hold on to their paper possessions, and everything will be fine. Now, I would like to believe that too. However, I think it's better to be safe than sorry. Thanks for joining us again. This is the story behind the story. Stay with us. We'll be back in a few minutes with segment number 2. Don't go away.
Considering a water filter, have you heard about Aquapale? Aquapale from FreezeDryGuy.com has huge advantages over many other water filters. American-made Aquapale units are designed and engineered to not just filter contaminated water, but capture or kill all bacteria and viruses to non-detectable levels. Aquapale has the fastest flow rate of any other water filter on the market, filtering a gallon of contaminated water in about 5 minutes. That's water when you need it, now. Get the world's fastest, safest, and most reliable gravity-fed portable water treatment system for surface, well, and wastewater sources. Aquapale. Available in 4 sizes starting at only $100. And all orders to the lower 48 ship free. Call 866-404-3663 or go to FreezeDryGuy.com. That's 866-404-3663 or FreezeDryGuy.com. 100% veteran-owned. The Freeze Dry Guy.
We interrupt this program for an urgent announcement. The power's gone and the lights are out. We now have an emergency situation. Time to light your emergency candles. Don't have any? Then it's time to order your supply of emergency grab-and-go candles from LisaKCandles.com. The emergency candles outperform even the most extreme conditions. They are soot and toxin-free and have a natural extended shelf life. The time is now, so don't delay. Have emergency candles from Lisa K Candles ready when you need them, so you remain in the light and out of the dark. Go to LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293. We now return you to the regular scheduled program already in progress.
Dad?
Hey, buddy.
How come we have a bunch of emergency food stashed in the basement?
Well, it's down there because there are things going on in the world that concern me that I think could potentially interrupt our food supply. And if that happens, I don't want us to starve.
You mean we could, go to the grocery and there wouldn't be anything in there?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
A lot of ways that could happen. And if it does, a bunch of people are going to starve. And it's my job to make sure that you don't.
Thanks, Dad.
And I don't want to starve either. And that's why we got food from the Freeze Dry Guy. It's the best long-term storage food you can get. And if it comes to that, we'll be ready.
Dad?
Yeah?
Some people say you're kind of a crackpot, but you make a lot of sense.
Well, thanks, I think.
Get your supply of the best long-term storage food available. Call 866-404-3663 or go to freezedryguide.com.
The Micro Effect is the purest form of alternative news and information on the airwaves today. Be part of the effort to inform about the things they need to know. Help us reach those that are looking for answers and truth about the world today. For a limited time, we are offering a dozen business card-sized magnets for every $25 contribution. Take a minute and go to our website and take a look at how neatly designed these magnets are. Pass them out or give them to your friends and neighbors. Let others know that we are speaking out and that they too have a voice of freedom. Once again, that's a dozen Micro Effect magnets that are business card size for your $25 contribution. For those who are able to contribute more than $25, we have other offers, such as 30 magnets for a $50 contribution, or how about 75 business card size Micro Effect magnets for $100. Help this network reach America 24 hours a day with your contributions. This is how we fight back with your freedom of speech. If you can't hear us, you're not listening.
The last thing the men behind the curtain want is a conscious, informed public capable of critical thinking, which is why a continually fraudulent zeitgeist is output via religion, the mass media, and the educational system. They seek to keep you in a distracted, naive bubble, and they are doing a damn good job of it.
Illuminati, you come to take control. You can take my heartbeat, but you
Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it. And he took the step without approval from either the U.S. Congress or the people of the United States.
And we're back. Thanks again for joining us today, Wednesday, the 20th of February, 2013, on The Story Behind the Story. I am your guest host for Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Alex Studer. And this is the second segment. I got a little sidetracked. Again, I'm still kind of winging it as far as pulling together a show format. I had invited a guest, didn't hear back, so I'm kind of pulling together a few different topics for discussion today. Just kind of hoping, bring it up here. TheMicroEffect.com, we have our phone lines open. And please, at any time during the broadcast, feel free to call in. There's a landline. It's, hold on, I'm just bringing it up here. Area code 208-935-0094. For those who don't have access to free long distance on their cell phone and would still like to call in, there's a toll-free number, which is 888-747-1968. So at any time during the broadcast, if anybody would like to call in and have any kind of comment whatsoever, you are more than welcome. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and read again for you the paragraph written on this new paper, which has yet to be released by Clifford Carnicom. And I ran out of time on yesterday's show. At the close of the show, I was trying to read it to you folks, and I got cut off about halfway through it. So I just kind of want to revisit that and illustrate clearly, please, folks, understand this is most likely one of our greatest health emergencies today, and it affects every single one of us. Okay? There is not a human being on Earth or a living, breathing mammal or any other living thing that does not have this condition. It is progressive. It is exceptionally inert. In other words, it is resistant to any kind of attack. It's unlike anything anyone has ever seen, and it defies all kind of explanation as far as things that we know to be normal and within the world of biochemistry. Okay, so this is a paper that he's working on. It hasn't been published yet, and it will be titled "Morgellons: A Working Hypothesis. Thyroid, Liver, Oxygen, Protein, and Iron Disruption" by Clifford E. Carnicom. This paper is under development to be completed as time and circumstances permit. And he puts a little disclaimer saying he's not offering any advice or diagnosis, medical advice whatsoever. And, the FDA and the Murder Association make him do that. Okay, and this is the one paragraph. A body of evidence accumulated over a period of several years reveals that the Morgellons condition is likely characterized by a host of serious physiological and metabolic imbalances. These imbalances are caused by the disruption of a variety of major body processes, including, as a minimum, the regulation of metabolism by the thyroid, potential liver enlargement, a decrease of oxygen in the circulatory system, the utilization of amino acids important to the body, and the oxidation of iron. The impact of this degradation to human health can be concluded to be serious, debilitating, and potentially lethal in the cumulative sense. The reports of those who suffer from the condition are in alignment with these conclusions. This paper will summarize the body of work and chronology which leads to this more comprehensive hypothesis. So that's just the introductory statement. The paper has yet to be prepared. We're waiting on it. But this is, again, some of the latest information that just came out of Cliff Carnicom on the 12th of this month. I sat and listened to it for an hour and a half yesterday, and I've been trying to sort of ignore this one away too. I mean, this is, I'm the more I find out about this stuff, folks, the more I want to be proven wrong. I want someone to show up and prove once and for all that I'm a tinfoil hatter, that I'm a nut job, that none of these things are true, and I've been misled. Wouldn't you folks love for all this just to be a hoax? None more than me, folks. I would love to just put it all away, forget it, say, okay, we fell for it, haha, okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. But so far that hasn't happened. I've been at this a really, really long time, and I keep waiting for it to happen, but it just doesn't. And so I'm getting more and more used to the notion that indeed these things are reality. And this Morgellons thing is not to be trifled with. It is a very, very serious assault on our physiologies. It is intentional. It is created. It is manufactured. It is artificially placed into our atmosphere by these chemtrail, geoengineering aerosol spray planes from Evergreen Air and other sources. And it is completely covered up. The police, the FAA, the weather people on so-called news deny. They won't answer any questions about chemtrails, and or they'll just hang up on you. They'll begin to start calling you crazy for even questioning such a thing. And these are the tactics that I reviewed very carefully in yesterday's show by reading you folks the 25 rules of disinformation. Because anybody trying to actually report or ask questions about chemtrails or Morgellons is going to encounter some of these 25 rules and the 8 traits that I read following that. Okay. In the law enforcement and media, you're going to get deny, called crazy, and just completely shut down for even inquiring into the chemtrail agenda. And then if you go into the medical world and you complain of these skin lesions and rashes that, television would have you believe is advanced psoriasis growing on your arms, really? Psoriasis was a hair thing, I thought. Okay? Yeah, they're bending all sorts of explanations to try and cover up this, what is really this Morgellons agenda. And it's a bioweapon plan, and there have been photographs published of the studies that they did experimenting with this stuff on monkeys and apes and chimpanzees and so forth, as part of the Monarch series of films that was put out by Marshall Thomas. Monarch, the new Phoenix program. Okay. But this Morgellons stuff, folks, it's you don't hear about it on a lot of other talk radio shows because it's taboo. It's really taboo. Evidence linked up over at Jan Smith's MorgellonsExposed.com site and other places show serial numbers and logos on some of these microfilaments that I've discussed, with the names of their creators and the acronyms of the agencies under which they were employed at the time, like DARPA and NASA and so forth. I'm not kidding, folks. I've seen these things myself. These aren't photoshopped images. I wish they were. But you too can go review this ever-growing chronology, the pile of photographic evidence, to show quite clearly that this is an agenda from these New World Order globalists. And who's at the top of the food chain? We already have discussed it. It's this Edomite bloodline, operating through the mother of all secret societies, B'nai B'rith. Okay, this is very transhumanistic. It's genetic warfare. Why do we think the Mormons are so into transhumanism? Why is this guy Ray Kurzweil talk of this thing called the singularity? Okay, I raise this because the point is it's not a Nazi agenda. Okay, we've for those who've studied history and understood what is true about the Nazis, and read a thing called Hitler's War, which is you don't read that in school. No, they teach you that this Aryan eugenics program to create a superior Aryan race. It's all just a charade, like Occupy Wall Street is, from the same people, the Rothschilds, operating through guys like George Soros, to create the disruption, to create the Hegelian dialectic. Hitler himself was a Jew, as they call them. I assert there's no such thing as a Jew. They're actually of an Edomite bloodline, the descendants of Esau, Edom. They're not original 12 tribes of Israel, who are all descended of Jacob. No. These are of the bloodline of Cain, Turkish Khazarians. And with them came, the Babylonian language of Yiddish, and their undying worship of this Lucifer guy in a thing they refer to as the synagogue of Satan. And it's all just it's a grand hoax. It's the biggest hoax ever. I have a post at labvirus.com called The Biggest Hoax Ever, and it compiles a number of some of the best of in the research papers, and it's about to get addended to. It's going to get added to, because this socio-eco-history blog that I've been reading has just come out with a couple new slam dunk posts, one of which was just a few weeks ago, illustrating the genetic proof of the bloodline being not of the 12 tribes. It's irrefutable. It's genetic. Genes don't lie, and I'm not talking Levi's. And there's some new posts at that site just in the last few days. But I'm bringing this up because, and there's a tie-in here with the Morgellons and the chemtrails, and then I was talking about the flu being okay, and it's not Nazis, okay? It's the Edomites, okay? Why do I say this? Because there's a guy saying otherwise. And guess who it is, folks? Wait for it. Yes, you guessed it. Len Horowitz and Sherry Kane. These two Edomite Bopsy twins, as I call them. Len is a narcissistic liar, the likes of which I don't think we've ever seen. I've certainly never encountered anybody quite like this weirdo. First thing about him, he's not a doctor, he's a dentist. Okay, he's about as qualified in the world of health as my pet goldfish. You know, selling this Oxy Silver crud, and then convincing everybody that, oh yeah, this love frequency of 528. Oh yeah, come on, and let's all just hang out, and we'll all resonate to this frequency of 528, and it's the love frequency. It'll make everything better magically. All right. Well, I know some people who think that that's not really the truth of the matter, and you know, this is one of those guys that if his mouth is moving, he's telling. How do you tell if he's lying? His mouth is moving. His lips are flapping. Okay. I don't know if this guy would know the truth if it came and punched him up in the face. This guy is so into his own falsehood. He believes his own lies so much. He might as well have been the lead singer in Van Halen, Dave Lee Roth. And in the world of rock and roll, we refer to it as sort of like the Dave Lee Roth syndrome. And it's kind of a joke in the rock world where you've got, you know, okay, you got a band, you're pretty good, you know, you got a lead singer, and you're making money, and you're doing big shows and stuff, okay? But it's all an act. It's a job, like any other, and the whole idea is that you're putting on an act to entertain people. And you, as you are in this role of being a character, of a lead singer, a band leader, or a quote-unquote rock star, you're putting on a role. You're putting on a you know, it's like playing Hamlet in a Shakespeare. You know, you walk off the set and you're done. You're no longer Hamlet. You're Jeffrey Peterson or you know, whoever. Okay. Hopefully you're not Jeffrey Peterson, because that's a gay robot skeleton sidekick for Craig Ferguson's Late Show. But you get my point, okay? And so we call that, and every now and then you run into somebody in the field of rock and roll who buys their own myth and thinks that they're hot now because they get such adulation and they're just so great. And so now, don't you know who I am? And you know, they get all these little ego-driven isms about them, and they have all these little tantrums because now all of a sudden they're better than everybody else, and they're world famous, and da-da-da-da-da, okay? In the world of rock and roll, we call this the Dave Lee Roth syndrome. And pretty much the nutshell of that story is anyone who's a fan of Van Halen, you know, they were big in California, as they were, you know, they're from here, and so we had a lot of grassroots support as they, you know, came popular in the late 70s with their first two albums and really hit the scene. They were just like, whoa, in rock and roll, nobody had ever seen anything that cool yet. And Led Zeppelin was on the scene, all right? It was pretty much, you know, at the top of the food chain. It was Zepp for a long time, and then out of nowhere came Van Halen, pretty much. But, you know, 5 records into their career or something like that, I don't know exactly how many albums they had under their belt, Eddie Van Halen and his brother Alex, and the other guy, they booted Dave Lee Roth out of the band. They're like, we don't care how good of a singer you are or how charismatic you are or any of that. You're being a jerk to the rest of us, throwing this attitude around, and you're not the leader of this band. Guess who is? It's Eddie. Yeah, Eddie produced and you know, ran that whole show, wrote the songs, da-da-da-da. Okay, so they booted him out and went with Sammy Hagar during the Sammy period. And it really dismayed a lot of Van Halen fans, and ultimately they are now back with Dave Lee Roth as they're touring today. considerably older than they were back in the early Van Halen days. But that's the analogy. So this guy Len is fully Dave Lee Roth out to the max, to the gills. He is so Dave Lee Roth out, this Len Horowitz guy, that he may as well be sporting the 2 sizes too tight leather bell bottoms and no shirt and long hair, trying to sing Might As Well Jump. Okay? That's where this guy is at in his belief of his own lies. And he operates under these premises like everyone else should just believe he's, it's like the emperor with no clothes. Everybody should just believe that because he says it's true, therefore it is. And I took this website off my RSS feed, aircrap.org, because I was looking down, trying to grab things to talk about today, and lo and behold, there's an article of an interview with this Len guy. And I'm like, no, you got to be kidding. And I just went and I started reading it. And here's Len talking about the flu as a conspiracy by satanic Nazis. Anti-Semitic Nazis, by the way. Okay? So I'm laughing. I'm like, okay, you're kidding me, right? But yeah, no, they posted this seriously long diatribe. You can go read it for yourselves, folks. I'm not going to highlight any details in it, other than here's the same guy once again sticking to the same 25 rules of disinformation in an interview fashion, and he doesn't he sends some jabs our way. Without naming names, but he definitely says, oh yeah, I got attacked from anti-Semites. Again, moving forward with the understanding that he's the Semite. That's not true. That's not true. It's not true. Okay? Edomites, so-called Jews, are not Semites. They are not descendants of Shem, the son of Noah. No, folks. You and I, the Gentiles listening to this program, those are the Semites, okay? The original 12 tribes of Israel, okay? That's, again, the some of the confusion thrown out. All I can say is in the context of what I read to you folks yesterday regarding the 25 rules of disinformation, I would suggest that reading this article over at aircrop.org, this interview with this Len dude, is a shining example of modern-day implementation of those very 25 rules. I hold it up as a great example of a really current contextual application of those principles in a real setting, with real players of unfathomable malicious intent. And I honed into it because, okay, this is sort of my field, right? And again, this guy, he's working off of information that we've been collecting, proven that, okay, these things came out of pathology labs and so forth. Well, anyone does a cursory examination of who's behind those pathology labs and who these doctors were, they're going to find they were all Edomites. Don't go away, folks. We're going to come back for the second hour of today's Story Behind the Story. I'm your guest host, Alex Studer. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Johnson!
Help me, sir!
Stand down!
Oh, thank you, sir. I think you saved my life.
Evidence, Johnson. Even raccoons respect the authority of a man with good nutrition. That's me. Now, what's going on here?
Well, he started it, sir. I was trying to clean his fish, and he tried to take it from me.
Yeah, well, you must have looked a little wimpy.
Sir, I'm hungry.
Johnson, if you'd have brought your own supply of freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy, like I told you, you wouldn't have to be out here picking on the cute little animals.
Oh, I'd give anything for a big chunk of protein right now.
Johnson, don't salivate. It's unbecoming a Marine.
I'm sorry, sir. I should have called the freeze-dry guy.
Bugs you, don't it, Johnson? You're suffering your MREs, and I'm enjoying chicken a la king and lasagna and bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Sir, shut up.
Johnson?
Sorry, sir.
Get your own supply of the best long-term storage food available. Call 866-404-3663 or go to freezedryguy.com.
How would you like to have normal blood pressure?
This is Ernesto from Illinois. I had my doctor's appointment yesterday, and I got my labs in. My HDL is 119L, and my LDL is 37L. My doctor asked what I was doing to lower it so much, so I told her about HB Extract.
Millions of people like Ernesto are suffering from high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, unbalanced cholesterol, irregular heartbeats, and clogged arteries. But now there's an effective, natural, 100% organic nutritional supplement for a healthy heart and circulation. Heart and Body Extract.
My blood pressure has not gone past 125/80 in almost a month.
Experience amazing benefits when your body gets what it needs with the assistance of Heart and Body Extract.
She did a double take when she looked at my ER labs. She couldn't believe it.
Order at hvextract.com or call 866-295-5305. That's hvextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
Thank you. Heart and Body Extract.
The Micro Effect is the purest form of alternative news and information on the airwaves today. Be part of the effort to inform your fellow Americans about the things they need to know. Help us reach those that are looking for answers and truth about the world today. For a limited time, we are offering a dozen business card-sized magnets for every $25 contribution. Take a minute and go to our website and take a look at how neatly designed these magnets are. Pass them out or give them to your friends and neighbors. Let others know that we are speaking out and that they too have a voice of freedom. Once again, that's a dozen Micro Effect magnets that are business card size for your $25 contribution. For those who are able to contribute more than $25, we have other offers, such as 30 magnets for a $50 contribution, or how about 75 business card size Micro Effect magnets for $100. Help this network reach America 24 hours a day with your contributions. This is how we fight back with your freedom of speech. If you can't hear us, you're not listening.
And we're back, folks, for the second hour of today's The Story Behind the Story. Today is Wednesday, 20 February 2013. I'm your guest host, Alex Studer. And normally at this time, True would want to do the America in Jeopardy. I don't do that as part of my regular program. So for the America in Jeopardy question at the top of the second hour, tune in to the other days during the week when True is hosting. He'll be back on the air tomorrow. Well, folks, goodness gracious, it's we're a month away from this March 20th to 22nd window, which there's a lot of buzz going on in the blogosphere and Intel circles. Very concerned that this could be another false flag date to come. We've known in the world of studying Satanism and ritual satanic abuse that the vernal equinox, the dates of March 20th, 21st, and 22nd are often filled with all sorts of nasty activities by Satanists involving abduction and murder and all sorts of just blood sacrifice rituals. Again, I wish these things weren't true, but they are. And as such, I read to you yesterday, folks, an email that was circulated expressing concern because FEMA is now doing a mass recruit of retired special op vets and so forth. They're looking for 800 of them to hire on March 1st. Well, there's follow-up to that, folks, and as I just concluded the last segment, speaking of the Edomite bloodline, okay, it serves to show and to remember while doing this research and gathering these facts together that, yeah, there's a great number of these satanic Synagogue of Satan Edomites operating under a Luciferian agenda. But they are not all of them from that bloodline operating under a Luciferian agenda, okay? Because you're of the bloodline, that is not what makes you a Luciferian. It is your behavior. It is your free will. It is your choice. And there are those who are of the bloodline and are blood related to some of these satanic cretins that I speak of, and yet are very Christian and not part of that Luciferian agenda. And the guy who hosts the website that I'm about to read this article is one of those people. His name is Henry Makow. Okay? And so here's an article which posts today. It's entitled DHS and FEMA Raising an Army. And there's this photo of all these young Latino guys holding, some serious weaponry. Take a good look at this picture. The U.S. government is training Latino youth as a kind of Hitler Youth or communist Red Guard to put down American resistance to New World Order communist tyranny. The Nazis and the communists were both Illuminati creations. They both had armed forces loyal to the party to enforce ruthless discipline on the regular armies. This is a renewal of this pattern. By Bruce Lazarus. On September 13th, 2012, the Department of Homeland Security graduated its first class of FEMA Corps youth, also known as the Homeland Youth. The federal government calls them FEMA Corps. But they conjure up memories of the Hitler Youth of 1930s Germany. Regardless of their name, Obama's Department of Homeland Security has just graduated its first class of 231 Homeland Youth. Kids aged 18 to 24 and recruited from the President's AmeriCorps volunteers, they represent the first wave of Department of Homeland Security's Youth Corps, designed specifically to create a full-time paid standing army of FEMA youth across the country. On September 13, 2012, the Department of Homeland Security graduated its first class of FEMA Corps First Responders, Homeland Youth. While the idea of having a volunteer force of tens of thousands of volunteers scattered across the country to aid in times of natural disasters sounds great, the details and timing of this new government army is somewhat curious, if not disturbing. DHS raising an armed army. The first problem one finds with this new army is the fact that they are mere children. Yes, 18 is generally the legal age a person can sign a contract, join the military, or be tried as an adult. But ask any parent. An 18, 20, or even a 24-year-old is still a naive, readily influenced kid. And I'll tell you that straight up truth, and I'm in my 40s. Okay? The second problem with this announcement and program is its timing. Over the past 2 years, Obama has signed a number of executive orders suspending all civil and constitutional rights and turning over management of America under martial law to FEMA. And folks, I brought that up as part of the MSH EPA legislation, the Model State Health Emergency Powers Act, and those other executive orders. Wait. Also, in that time, domestic federal agencies under DHS, including FEMA, have ordered billions of rounds of ammunition as well as the corresponding firearms. Admittedly, these new weapons and ammunition are not to be used in some far-off war or to fight forest fires in California, but right here on the streets of America. Strange armored fighting vehicles. Individuals around the U.S. have begun reporting the sight of strange, new, heavily armed FEMA fighting vehicles. What would a disaster relief agency like FEMA need with 2,500 brand new GLS armored fighting vehicles? According to the agency's own mandate, as well as Obama's recent executive order, the answer is population control during a time of martial law. And then it has a link to a video, and you can look this up on YouTube. You just go to YouTube and do a search on FEMA concentration camps. And there's a link to the video there. And I will probably go into this FEMA camp thing a little bit further in depth as I can gather some more documents and videos to point you folks to. I'll make a post on that or something. That's actually one of the areas that I have been researching for quite some time, folks, and I'm kind of coming to the realization that I have not really included that in any kind of coherent way on the website over there. So I may end up adding a button or somehow consolidating that into something else. It does relate in a kind of way to the underground base thing, but it probably should remain separate in so much that the underground bases are really for the elite and the high brass military and the deltas and the critters and so forth. The general overall population, as far as I understand it, and as far as I've read in the Model State Health Emergency Powers Act and the document called Endgame from the DRO, Office of Removal and Detention, that mass population relocation and sorting and processing and all that goes with it, including forced vaccinations and some other real nasty circumstances, are all intended to be above ground or on the surface, top side as they call it. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud as I ponder, how I'll approach presenting that, because I have a lot of photos. I have all these libraries of photos that I have yet to link up, and at one point in time in the early days, before my site got attacked and taken down under false claims by the sidekick of this Len guy, she really went postal. After I posted this video with absolute permission and free decision to do so, I felt it was informative that the public should know the activities that go on as far as these so-called truthers are concerned. They're nothing of the sort. They're liars. They're backstabbers. Blackmailing each other and really trying to screw everybody else, including each other. It's just absurd. It's disgusting. And so I felt, well, hey, this is a great way to show people that. And since I have permission from the owner of the footage, why not? And, well, she, they went postal. They went nuts. Because, it really does bring down their house of cards as far as this charade, this front that they've perpetuated to the public. So meticulously over years, this whole fraud of 528. The real love frequency, the helpful frequency is 728, folks. It's not 528. But also just, selling all these products. And then I'm not a doctor. I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. I'm a health professional. No, you're not, man. You yank people's teeth out of their head. You're a dentist. You fill cavities, okay? And you're selling a bunch of BS products, and you have a million websites and all these different funds and trusts and money-making schemes trying to monetize every little bit of everything he does. Meanwhile, attacking those who are in any way hitting the nail on the head at all regarding actual truth, and especially those who are drawing attention to this falsehood of the Jews. It's phenomenal, the extent to which this guy has been operating, and he made me ill to the stomach from the get-go, and the more I learned about him, the more I just was shown correct on my initial hunch. This guy is just a lying SOB. So enough on that. I mean, it irks me that, here's this site that I've been referring other people to as far as like, oh, well, you don't know much about chemtrails. Here's a great way to get up to speed and learn and see some footage and understand a little bit about what this agenda is and where it comes from, and how global it is and how much it affects every single one of us. And then for that website to now just sort of take a detour and publish this article about, flu conspiracy, by a guy saying it's anti-Semitic Nazis. That's just, if that's not right out of the 25 rules of disinfo, folks, I don't know what is. So I just kind of lost a lot of faith in aircrap.org. I'm not linking them for a while. I'm going to see, how they rebound from this, and if they're going to continue promoting this fake, this phony, this fraud, this narcissistic nincompoop. And, I've had these other, I ran into an old friend who I knew through a girl who was my girlfriend a long time ago. And he, at the time, worked for a pretty interesting government alphabet soup kind of group. And I don't know if he still does or not, but I just kind of ran into him or not kind of recently. And it was over the topic of George Noory and his Coast to Coast radio. And they were all like, oh, it's the best thing ever on radio, and boy, isn't he so awesome. And again, I'm not throwing any discredit to any of his past guests who have been of the honest orientation, but they just about anybody in talk radio who's on actual airwaves like AM or FM, like these bi-coastal, right? I could name some other names, Art Bell and even AJ, and right. So as many of people that they bring on, they seem to sort of go out of their way to bring on what I consider to be straight up disinfo, gatekeeping spin agents. You look into anyway. So you find Len and his little posse mixed up in there quite a bit. And so that was the origin of the discussion that I got into with my old friend. And I didn't even recognize it was this person until we kind of got into it. And we were like, okay, now we're debating like, okay, well, look, I'm not saying he's 100% that way, but he does seem to keep re-inviting X, Y, and Z people who are 100% phony baloney. And so we came to agreement on that. But I've just recently run into this person again, and I hope he's listening now, or at least he'll check the archive later, because I want to pick his brain about a couple things. I'm very curious if he's still working for those people, and if not, what he can tell me, and even what his perspective may be on just a few things that I talk about with you folks. It's just a strange world we live in. Israel, I don't even know what to say about them, folks. They're up to no good out in the West Bank, trying to occupy this area called E1, which is literally going to sort of split the West Bank in two. As soon as the United Nations voted that it would recognize Palestine, Israel got busy with construction plans for this area called E1, that's got some pretty dire consequences out there in the Mideast for Palestine, which is an occupied, Israel occupying Palestine land and now wanting to go and build construction on it, starting with I guess they just want to do a big garbage dump and then build a park on it. How nice. That's what we think of you, Palestine. Other things going on in the world today. The continuing saga of Fukushima, folks. Now, this is an interesting story. Most people think, okay, Fukushima, it's just a natural event. Well, I submit it was nothing of the sort. For those who've followed my research and my line of thinking, there's a buzz phrase that I've been working with for quite a while now called weaponized weather. And by way of use of certain transmitting arrays, one of them is in a place called Gakona, Alaska, called HARP. There are many others like it. There's one out in Arecibo off the Atlantic, off the East Coast. There's one in China. There's one in Australia. There's one in Russia. There's quite a few of these things, okay? So, with the ability to sort of dial up cloud masses and get them to do stuff as if you're playing a video game, there's weather wars going on. In addition to ability to dial storms up and direct them places like this Hurricane Sandy that we had, and then this Storm Nemo and so forth, there's stuff going on right now that people should be aware of that's coming up from the Gulf of Mexico. Crazy weather happening across the United States today. But also there is within the possibility of these things to target the substrata of the Earth and fracture giant pieces of it with relatively low frequency but high energy finely, precisely focused, directed beams by way of these, gigawatt energy systems, which can bounce it around the ionosphere and get it to land pretty much wherever they want. For example, causing earthquakes. Now, is every earthquake that we've seen an artificial event? I sincerely doubt that. We're here in California. I'm sitting on the San Andreas Fault. We got the Hayward Fault. We got like 3 different fault lines convening all in one area. This is a very earthquake-prone zone. It's been that way since time began, pretty much. But there are places where earthquakes are not necessarily prone, and have been influenced, as well as those that are prone and yet have still been influenced. Now, I point to Christchurch, New Zealand, the Haiti earthquake, 1 or 2 in China, and most certainly the one off the coast of Fukushima. Now, the interesting there's some interesting things to be noted about this. There are reports that the nuclear reactors at Fukushima, the ones which failed, the ones which have essentially begun China syndroming, they've melted through the containment and are now in the, this is bad, folks, real bad, and it's not getting better. It's one of those things that is only going to get worse. It's so bad they can't go near it to even think about stopping it. It does not have a happy ending. But you folks remember hearing about like those viruses, Stuxnet, right? That were going around in like nuclear plants. And then there was that other one. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Doesn't matter. Well, the story is, and this is my understanding, that due to one of those computer viral attacks that was timed in advance of this beam weaponry attack, which caused the rupture to begin the tsunami, those reactors failed before the quake, is what I'm being told. And strange to even consider, folks, but if you look at it through the lens of someone thinking like, okay, this is another psyop, this is another staged event, it would serve to begin that reactor demolition process in a way so that we can guarantee that it'll get there, because once we trigger this thing and we're going to lose control over being able to set this off. So we want to be able to do it before the wave comes, but then we also want to do it in a way so that we can hide behind what is commonly referred to as plausible deniability. And interestingly enough, we didn't really hear that phrase per se in the 25 rules of disinformation, but it was implied very clearly in a subset of those rules. The plausible deniability, and this is one of the main tenets behind weather warfare. Is the advanced technology? The nature of the advanced technology is such that events can be produced which appear absolutely natural, and thus any hint of wrongdoing, any accusations of involvement in anything suggesting what I've just said, can easily be poo-pooed and ridiculed and shamed and denied under this guise of what is referred to as plausible deniability. So this is the main modus operandi with how these PSYOP weather events are undertaken is under the guise of plausible deniability. Stay with us, folks. We're going to go to break. We'll come back in a few minutes after these messages with the final segment of today's Story Behind the Story. I'm your guest host, Alex Studer. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Johnson, help me, sir. Stand down.
Oh, thank you, sir. I think you saved my life.
Evidence, Johnson. Even raccoons respect the authority of a man with good nutrition. That's me. Now, what's going on here?
Well, he started it, sir. I was trying to clean his fish, and he tried to take it from me.
Yeah, well, he must have looked a little wimpy.
Sir, I'm hungry.
Johnson, if you'd have brought your own supply of freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy, like I told you wouldn't have to be out here picking on the cute little animals.
Oh, I'd give anything for a big chunk of protein right now.
Johnson, don't salivate. It's unbecoming a Marine.
I'm sorry, sir. I should have called the freeze-dry guy.
Bugged you, don't it, Johnson? You're suffering your MREs, and I'm enjoying chicken a la king, and lasagna, and bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Sir, shut up.
Johnson?
Sorry, sir.
Get your own supply of the best long-term storage food available. Call 866-404-3663 or go to freezedryguy.com.
Like to have normal blood pressure.
This is Ernesto from Illinois. I had my doctor's appointment yesterday, and I got my labs in. My HDL is 119L, and my LDL is 37L. My doctor asked what I was doing to lower it so much, so I told her about HB extract.
Millions of people like Ernesto are suffering from high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, unbalanced cholesterol, irregular heartbeats, and clogged arteries. But now there's an effective, natural, 100% organic nutritional supplement for a healthy heart and circulation. Heart and Body Extract.
My blood pressure has not gone past 125/80 in almost a month.
Experience amazing benefits when your body gets what it needs with the assistance of Heart and Body Extract.
She did a double take when she looked at my ER labs. She couldn't believe it.
Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. That's hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
Thank you. Heart and Body Extract.
The Micro Effect is the purest form of alternative news and information on the airwaves today. Be part of the effort to inform your fellow Americans about the things they need to know. Help us reach those that are looking for answers and truth about the world today. For a limited time, we are offering a dozen business card-sized magnets for every $25 contribution. Take a minute and go to our website and take a look at how neatly designed these magnets are. Pass them out or give them to your friends and neighbors. Let others know that we are speaking out and that they too have a voice of freedom. Once again, that's a dozen Micro Effect magnets that are business card size for your $25 contribution. For those who are able to contribute more than $25, we have other offers, such as 30 magnets for a $50 contribution, or how about 75 business card size Micro Effect magnets for $100. Help this network reach America 24 hours a day with your contributions. This is how we fight back with your freedom of speech. If you can't hear us, you're not listening.
Everybody, welcome back. Welcome back for the final segment of today's Story Behind the Story. Once again, it is Wednesday, 20th of February, 2013. I'm your guest host, Alex Studer. I just want to read you something from the year 1950 regarding Israel's plan to build this garbage dump and park in an area of Palestine, which basically splits the West Bank into two segments. Many are calling it a point of no return. It's a lose-lose situation. It's going to create form of conflict that will not be able to be resolved. It's from a book called Somewhere South of Suez. It was published in the year 1950, from the pages 349 to 350. Mr. Benjamin Friedman, a Jewish industrialist born in New York, wrote in the Economic Council letter published there of October 15, 1947, quote, "These Eastern European Jews have neither a racial nor a historic connection with Palestine. Their ancestors were not inhabitants of the Promised Land. They are the direct descendants of the people of the Khazar Kingdom. The Khazars were a non-Semitic Turco-Mongolian tribe," unquote. Mr. Friedman was challenged, unwisely, by a Zionist objector. He invited his challenger to go with him to the Jewish room of the New York Public Library. There they could together examine the Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 1, pages 1 through 12, and the published works of Graetz, Dubnow, Friedlander, Raisin, and many other noted Jewish historians, which, as well as other non-Jewish authorities, quote, "establish the fact beyond all possible doubt," unquote. So, for those who are just new to this idea, they knew it back then, they proved it, their own kind, their own bloodline did so, okay? Again, I would suggest this Mr. Benjamin Friedman, while being a bloodline, was acting out of love of Jesus Christ for no other reason than he chose to. Another shining example of the fact that being bloodline Edomite does not make one an agenda-oriented Luciferian, okay? But it also shows that everything we've been saying about these people, or if you can call them people, you know, they're mostly people, but they, you know, you trace the genealogy, and you learn, if you're doing it right, you know, I call them critter hybrids. They're Nephilim hybrids, or you know, and the logic there just simply goes back to Eve carrying a dual pregnancy from two different fathers. You know, Cain and Abel. Abel being the father, Abel being fathered by Adam. Cain being fathered by the serpent who beguiled her. Okay, wholly beguiled her, which means to wholly seduce. Okay, she was wholly seduced by the serpent. So these Canaanite descendants were among the wives that Esau chose. Esau, also known as Edom, to mate with and spawn his bloodlines with after he sold his soul for a bowl of beans and broke from Abraham and Isaac. You can go look that up yourselves, folks. I mean, don't take my word for it, please. And then also, you know, bear in mind that there are certain additions and redactions to this thing that most people refer to as their Bible. Okay, I'm not saying it's not the Holy Bible. I'm saying it's been edited. It's been changed a little bit. Most of it, like 99.999% of what is in that Bible, is original Scripture. Some of the words are, you know, there's a game of telephone going on from translations from Aramaic and so forth. But entire chapters have been removed, and there was one put in. My research shows this was all done under the direction of the Roman Empire, which we've shown to be solid Edomite from the gate, starting with Constantine. and that book was the book of Esther, which gives itself to this period of Lent and the celebration of Easter. You know, the death of Christ and the resurrection, the 3 days later. It's while a very important Christian celebration, to remember the death and resurrection of Christ, the date is inaccurate, and it's been moved to coincide with this. Well, I read it to you, folks. I read it to you in an earlier program. You can go and read about the Aries festival, the mythology between Esther and Easter. And I like to say it this way, you know, Jesus never said nothing about no egg-laying bunny rabbit. Okay? So, but then there were some chapters that were removed as well, you know, from what most people call the Bible. Most significantly would be these two, the books of Jasher, Jasher, which is often referred to in the New Testament, and the book of Jubilees. So we've spoken about those before. I'm not going to, you know, beat a dead horse continually about that, but I like to remind people that there's more to meets the eye. There's more than meets the eye to just about every story that we're faced with in modern day society, and it doesn't hurt to question: is there more to this? You know, just because there are additions or redactions does not really change the overall meaning of the Bible or its accuracy. I'm just saying there's more backstory just to support everything that's already there. I guess that's the best way to put that. I'm going to move over to talk about Sandy hoax for a minute. I just, you know, just when you think things can't get any weirder, you know, it's so interesting to me that the world in general just takes this story from the mainstream media, hook, line, and sinker, and are completely duped into believing that that's what happened, that this Adam Lanza character just, you know, flipped out and went and shot up all these kids. And okay, well, okay, we've already discussed the idea that many of these people seen in these photographs and shown in many of these quote-unquote news interviews, news clips for this thing, are indeed actors. And we've looked into this group from Denver, Colorado called CrisisActors.org. You can go look at that yourselves, folks. And these are professionally trained actors who are equipped to fully replicate a scenario in a very real way for drill purposes. Yeah. Okay. Let me read to you this. It's an article found, it was a press release in Yahoo Finance on October 31st of 2012. Denver, Colorado. A new group of actors is now available nationwide for active shooter drills and mall shooting full-scale exercises, announced Vision Box, Denver's leading professional actors studio. Vision Box crisis actors are trained in criminal and victim behavior and bring intense realism to simulated mass casualty incidents in public places. The actor's stage acting experience, ranging from Shakespeare to contemporary American theater, enables them to, quote, stay in character, unquote, throughout an exercise, and improvise scenes of extreme stress while strictly following official exercise scenarios. The actors regularly rehearse scenarios involving the incident command system and crisis communications, and appear in interactive training films produced in both 2D and stereoscopic 3D. Producers Jennifer McCrae-Rincon and John Simmons formed the group to demonstrate emerging security technologies, help first responders visualize life-saving procedures, and assist trainers in delivering superior hands-on crisis response training. For example, with a large shopping center, the producers review all security camera views and design dramatic scenes specifically for existing camera angles, robotic camera sweeps, and manually controlled camera moves. The producers then work with the trainers to create a quote-unquote prompt book for the actors so that key scenario developments can be triggered throughout the mall shooting simulation and caught on tape. The actors can play the part of the shooters, mall employees, shoppers in the mall, shoppers who continue to arrive at the mall, media reporters, and others rushing to the mall, persons in motorhomes, and other emergency personnel. There's more to that article, but that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of what it is. So I submit that's exactly what we were shown on television and all the video footage that you see on YouTube, and there's plenty, is Fugazi. It's all Wag the Dog on steroids. And again, folks, please, if you have not seen it, go watch this film, Wag the Dog, with Woody Harrelson and Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman and Willie Nelson. Not only is it hilarious as heck, it's a good date movie. Okay, your date will love you for showing this to her if she's never seen it before. But it's just so true, and no less applicable than now, especially with these continuing PSYOP events that are being unveiled upon us. And who is pretty much the father of modern PSYOPs today? Who kind of like created that culture, atmosphere, infrastructure? Well, wouldn't it be the guy who formerly headed up INSCOM, whose basic career legacy is that he redesigned the intelligence community infrastructure from the ground up? One of the guys who co-founded SciTech, Psychotechnologies Incorporated, one of the original men who stares at goats, one retired Army General Albert Stubblebine. Could it possibly be that he has a lot to do with these things called PSYOPs? SciTech? Things that make me go, Who's his wife again? Oh yeah, Rima Leibau. Who is she? Oh, she's the one who contributes regularly to that WHO-sponsored organization called OIUCM that sells fake knighthoods of Malta for $1,000 to anyone who wants to buy one. Who did? Oh yeah, Len Horowitz. The guy saying the flu is from Nazis, anti-Semitic Nazis. Isn't it weird how all this just ties together, folks? now you can sort of get a flavor for how it is that I start at one thing calling it lab virus and end up talking about weather warfare and school shootings and GMO this and that and Morgellons and transhumanism and okay, it somehow all just sort of bounces around in the same hockey, like an air hockey puck, just sort of bouncing around. It just, ultimately the puck is going to hit something, part of these facets. It's a very, very multifaceted agenda, but it does remain to be integrally connected. I want you folks to see this because this is something I'm very familiar with, having worked in the field of acting. I'm also a member of the Screen Actors Guild, folks, and I have been an actor on television as an extra for a long time. I popped up in a bunch of different TV shows a couple years ago as I was down there. It was a great way to learn film school without paying for it, is just to work on set. And, a great way to do that if you're down in L.A. Is to be an extra. Now, you can't really live off of being an extra because it doesn't pay very well. You have to have another source of income. But if you have the time available, it's an invaluable way to learn the process of filmmaking. And in the time that I spent working on every set in Hollywood for every TV show that was in production, I learned a lot about running an ARRI and a Panavision and the entire production process. One of my friends, I was on set for, I told you folks, the film Dreamgirls, and that's where I met all them people and played piano for them. My buddies in sound crew got the Oscar for that. Pretty cool. I got a photo of me holding it. There's a movie that's posted over here at it's called Socio-Eco-History blog. And here's the address, folks. It's SOCIOECOHISTORY. So socioecohistory.wordpress.com is the name of this blog. Socioecohistory.wordpress.com. And there's a new post as of today titled, Gene Rosen was definitely on a production set at the Sandy Hook, and then in parentheses, line and stinger shooting. The more I read this socioeconomics and history blog, the more I really like these people behind it. But here's a movie showing this guy Gene Rosen, talking about Sandy Hook, and he's perpetuating this lie that, kids that had been there all just kind of ran into his driveway, and he brought them all inside and gave them milk and cookies and was trying to figure out, just rubbish in the bigger sense of the word. But it shows him speaking to the camera, and up in the right corner is this sign. It's this giant solar LED portable, solar-powered LED portable sign, kind of the kinds you see in like road utilities when they're trying to tell you the road condition up ahead, construction crew warning, okay. But this one is blinking in the background behind his head as he's talking. Everyone must check in. Now, to those who don't work in the field of acting, they may not recognize the significance of this sign and what it means. But I'll venture to say that in no emergency setting, pre or post shooting, will you see a sign that says everyone must check in. No, this is a call for all the actors who are working on a production set. And we, anybody who's working in union for anything, and on both sides of the camera, have to check in. You have to sign on the roster. You have to report to your superior. This is all how everybody gets paid. And it's sort of the time card thing for all the crisis actors signing in on the production set. And this sign is visibly blinking in the background behind his head. And I'm just going to read the paragraph that goes along with it. The apparatus is called... the screenshot's from a Fox News live shot in Newtown, Connecticut. It shows our boy Gene with an interesting notification in the background. The apparatus is called a solar-powered LED portable sign. The ones that warn us of freeway and lane closures during AM and drive time, traffic, or construction. Is this a usual item at a crime scene? No, not at all. These signs are used for instructions, directions, or warnings. And the plot thickens, doesn't it? Well, hold on tight, because below is a cut and paste of a PDF X-Plan manual that shows how to determine each player staff member during these drills, because, it's a production set after all. Parking and directions. Parking information and directions to each venue are available from the Emergency Management Agency. Refreshments and restroom facilities. Refreshments and potable water will be provided for all exercise participants throughout the exercise. Restroom facilities will be available at each venue. Exercise identification. Identification badges will be issued to the exercise staff. All exercise personnel and observers will be identified by agency uniforms or identification badges distributed by the staff. Why is this important? Seems like we've got a bona fide snapshot of a real-life exercise director at the Sandy Hook shooting. And her name seems to be Alicia. Now, it's called upon that somebody can tighten up and enhance the image and be able to read the rest on her name tag. But she's evidently walking right next to a smiling parent holding a visibly upset child who's, in my opinion, faking it and acting for the camera. There's a couple other people standing around. This is a very interesting photograph in the context of what I'm talking about. Again, this post, folks, can be found over at socioecohistory.wordpress.com. And there's some amazing other posts relating to Sandy Hook's. We're kind of winding down with our time today, folks. I really appreciate spending time with you for these few hours. Thank you for listening. I'm going to try and bring some more guests as I can find them. It's kind of a different schedule. Thanks again. True Odd will be on tomorrow, folks. We'll see you next week. Once again, this is Alex Studer signing off. The story behind the story. Thanks again. We'll see you again soon.